Just give us another couple seconds here. All right, and I'll go ahead and get us kicked off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode, really, of our webinar series here in our 20th anniversary of the Coalition of Urban Serving Universities. We're very thankful for you joining us today, and we're excited to have a conversation and a little bit of engagement around a topic it sounds like you all are interested in. But to get us kicked off, at USU, we know how important it is for our member campuses to have resources that truly reflect and uplift the experiences of today's students. For our large urban serving institutions in particular, it's critical that the images we use to represent the lives and experiences and realities of the student populations we serve. That's why we're excited that we have the chance today to partner with Complete College America to highlight their new Complete College Photo Library, which features authentic images of 21st century learners and college campuses. This is a unique resource and really innovative resource that can support the way our institutions tell their stories, whether it's in publications, on websites, or in presentations. Today, we are joined by Dr. Brandon Protas, the Interim Vice President for Alliance Engagement, Research, and Innovation at Complete College America. Because of CCA's national leadership in advancing student success and equity. Brandon will walk us through the purpose of the photo library and how it can be used, and then we'll open up a space for your questions and discussion. As a reminder, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can feel free to post them in the chat. We are in a meeting space, so just know those chats will be visible to all unless you make them private, and then the hosts will be able to see them. And after that, I'll be moderating a conversation, and we'll work through as many of the questions as possible through the second half of this conversation. In addition, please just note that we'll be recording this session. So if you would like to review at a later date or like to pass on the link to the video to other folks who might benefit from the session that were not here, you're more than welcome to do that. Additionally, just as a reminder, you're more than welcome to keep your cameras on or off as you'd please. We will have a discussion a little bit later, so it'd be great to see you, but if it's not possible, it's not possible. But with that, I will turn it over to you, Brandon.
Great, thank you so much. And I seem to have lost my ability to share my screen, but and it just came back.
Great.
So as mentioned, Brandon Protas from Complete College America. For those of you who don't know us, we are a national nonprofit who's focused really on what our name sounds like. We work with states, systems, and institutions across the country to dramatically increase college completion rates. We have a number of student success strategies that we focus on for that. But I'm here today to talk to you about the Complete College Photo Library. We're very excited about this resource. And just to let you know how today is going to go, I'm going to share a little bit in the beginning, maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so. There's going to be some chances for some interaction. And then after that, we're going to be doing some work where you're going to be interacting in real time. So I'm just giving you some warning that this is going to be interactive. So as Jimmy mentioned, and thank you for the wonderful introduction and for having us here, we have just recently released the Complete College Photo Library. This is a completely free, open source photo library where we went around the country and took photos of authentic students and faculty and staff, which we're going to talk about. The reason why we do this, you kind of see here on the screen here, and you're going to see that there's actually dual purposes for why we are engaging in this project. One is to create a photo library that anyone can use that we would actively encourage you to use. But there's something deeper that I'll mention now, and you may hear me mention it later, which is our broader goal is we want to change how people understand higher education. And we're doing that first by changing how people see higher education. So by changing how people view higher education, we're hoping to have a larger impact. We've seen the devaluing of higher education over the past several years. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions around that, because when you really tease out some of those numbers, you'll see how there can be some negative views about higher education. But people like the college or university down the street from them and the people that they know going to, whether it's a family member or a close friend. And therein lies some of the disconnect. So here's the problem, and I've warned you already, I'm going to have some of you come off mute. So these are images we just took from a very easy Google search from uh, some of the stock photos that we often find. And I'm going to invite some people to come off of mute. What do you notice about the images that you see right there from typical stock photos or photos that you find from Google when you put in higher ed?
I will go.
Thank you.
Everyone appears more or less quote unquote traditional college age. It looks like a traditional campus setting. With, the quad and the steps that they're all sitting on. And, we know that there are many, many students who go to college where, there isn't a building that looks like that. So it doesn't really reflect the experiences of those students.
Thank you for kicking us off and being brave. I appreciate it. I'd like to hear some other voices as well. What else do you notice?
Hey Brandon, this is Jennifer. They strike me as obviously very posed because they are, and of the classic, I'm going to age myself here, the 80s Benetton ad, right? Like they're very socially and demographically engineered to represent a point of view that may or may not be representative on our campuses.
Thank you. I love that term, demographically engineered, where it's like we're going to make sure that in some ways we're representing, but it becomes very tokenized of trying to show diversity on campus. I see a couple other people who are off of video mute. So Alex or Sushila, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'll just sort of pick up on that there, I would be highly surprised if you could see any of those actually happening on a campus. That isn't what happens at universities. So seconding the kind of, very posed and not very representative of the activities and the sort of campus life.
You mean students don't walk around all the time holding a book that's very visible for the camera?
Smiling very broadly. I wish, right?
Yeah. Alex, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just echo what everyone else has already said, but it just feels very like Sam said, like a very traditional college campus that's not representative of all of the different campuses that we have across the country.
Yep. So it is one way that students do college. It's one demographic in terms of the age that someone mentioned that students do college, but it's not reflective of the reality of a lot of students. So it's only telling one story as opposed to the multiple stories. I'm going to put you on the spot again. What do you notice about these images? Anything strike you? This one should be pretty easy.
There are multiple websites using the same stock image.
Thank you. There was nothing hidden behind that. It's the same darn photo. I've actually seen this photo used dozens, if not over 100 times when I did a reverse Google image search. And sadly, even our organization once used it when we were trying to find either a free or low cost image and trying to be more reflective of our students, but then you see the same image over and over. So the problem is either you see stock photos that are not reflective of reality, or you see the same image over and over and over, or the photos are behind a paywall where they're limited in how they can be used. So the solution that we came up with was the Complete College Photo Library. And we spent a year and a half going around the country, and we created a matrix of different kinds of both institutions as well as students who we wanted to be able to portray. And so that included 4-year residential universities and 2-year community colleges and technical colleges and residential campuses and commuter campuses, HBCUs, HSIs and MSIs, and APESIs and TCUs to be more reflective of students' reality. We worked with actual students, and so the images are pretty much not posed. The reason why I say pretty much, in some cases, we went into actual classrooms with permissions and with waivers signed in terms of being able to take the shots. And other campuses didn't want us being disruptive, so we set up a mock classroom for the purposes of not being disruptive. We were very careful of also saying we wanted real students that reflected their reality, not just a certain kind of sanitized look. And we thought a lot about that line between tokenism and representation, making sure that we pictured real images in real situations. We also allowed students to identify themselves. You'll see in a second of how you can search through the library. But students being able to self-identify both through visible as well as non-visible identity markers that were used rather than us deciding for those students. And so what we developed is a free photo library. Right now has over 850 photos. We have one more photo shoot, so I'll soon have over 1,000. And as I mentioned before, but I want to reiterate, our goal is twofold. One, to create these images for people to use. We want it to be the go-to source, and whether that's folks on campus, and a lot of times on campus, you already have your photos of your own students, but you're looking for supplemental ones to tell a very specific story. For funders, for national organizations, for reports, for higher ed news media, for general news media. And we're trying to get this out here so we can really change, again, how people see, and therefore how they understand higher education, thinking about who today's students actually are. So as you go through this, and we're going to do an activity in just a little bit, where you're going to go through the photos. You can just browse on the main page and see the photos that pop up. It's dynamic, so it changes each time. We've curated them into collections, so you can search by collection. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of different tags that you can click on. You can search by keyword, so you can even look for something very specific in terms of the images. And then you're able to download them. They're completely free. It's a Creative Commons use license for non-commercial purposes. And so, as I mentioned, this is for anybody and everybody. And with that Creative Commons use license, you can actually mix and remix the images as well. We did very limited editing. The only editing that we did is because these need to be able to be used by anyone or everyone, we tried to have students not wear clothing that had their school logo on it. So the only editing we did, for example, we had students in a nursing program where they're wearing a patch that identifies them as a student nurse and it had the name of their school. Well, we took the name of the school off. So sure, that school who has access to it might be able to use it, but it can also be used by anyone across the country. As I mentioned, they can be used for PowerPoints, for presentations, for reports on websites. We do not control how these are used. And this was really important when students sign waivers. People don't write in and say, I would like to use this photo, may I have permission? That kind of gatekeeping limits this becoming a go-to source. Instead, anyone has access for non-commercial purposes. So we don't want an image being used to sell soda, for example. And as long as you give the attribution, which is a standard practice, and it cites the photographer, Allison Shelley, and the Complete College Photo Library. I will also say we've had some questions in the case this comes up of, can we add to the library? And there's reasons why we're limiting it to the photos that we have. One, in starting this project, I learned a lot. This was not my area. And so learning about what it means to use a consistent photographer. The photographer who we've used, Allison Shelley, is a renowned photographer. She actually did a similar project for K-12, which inspired this one. She shot in over 40 countries on every continent, including in the Oval Office in the White House. Her photos are in the New York Times, NPR. Actually, if you go to the NPR main office, her photos are the main photos throughout the entire building. If you look up your favorite commentator, the chances are she took their headshot as well. She's a very well-respected photographer. But beyond that, because of the permissions for how they would be used, we had to go through our legal counsel and make sure that students were giving permission. And at any point, they could contact us and say, could you please remove me from the website? And we will. So that's another reason why we can't bring in external photos. So again, we talked about the problem. And so I want to focus on what does it look like when we solve that problem? And this phrase actually came about when we were doing one of our photo shoots in Nevada, and we had a student liaison who was helping us. And she said, once if you took some of these photos and said, for example, in this case, nursing is college, right? So changing how people think about it. She's like, you can do that for anything. Veterans are college. HSIs are college. Commuter campuses, college. Welding is college. And you can't tell in this photo, but that's actually a female welder, which I love. Prison education. We went inside a women's correctional facility. Is college. But when people hear the word college, is this what people are thinking of? Or are they thinking of the ivy walled and student throwing the frisbee? HVAC is college. TCUs are college. STEM is college. HBCUs are college. Automotive, college. EMT, it's college. Aviation, college. Student parents are college. Community college is college. Horticulture is college. Culinary arts is college. Diesel mechanics is college. And so what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing sharing my screen so I can put something in the chat and I can put it back up, is the actual photo library itself. And in just a second, we're going to go into a breakout room. I know it's a small group. We'd like you, for the folks who are not part of APLU and USU, to have some time. What we want you to do is go to the actual website, and we want you to browse through, look through the different tags, look through the different images, and we want you to select a photo that speaks to you in some way. It can speak to you in a way because of the professional work that you do currently, or maybe your personal experience, or some other way, but some way that as you search through the different photos, that one of the photos really speaks to you. And then in the small group, we want you to be able to share because we want to build some community. And then we're going to come back to the whole group. We'll join Jimmy and me and the rest, and we'll hear some of the call outs. And we'll do some work after that, but we'd like to start with that. So again, you'll go to completecollegephotolibrary.org. Browse in whatever way you want, by collection, by keyword, by tag. Look through the photos, and you can click on one tag to another tag. You'll also see that sometimes there's multiples of photos. For example, some counseling ones, sometimes the students are smiling. Sometimes there's not. There's reasons for that. Find a photo that speaks to you either professionally or personally or in some way, and share that actual image, so you'll share your screen with the group. You'll do that in the breakout room that we're going to go to in a second, and then we'll come back as a whole. The one last thing that I want to say before we do that is I always want to thank our funders who made this possible, which was the Lumina Foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, the Higher Education Equity Network, and the Haas Junior Foundation, who made this possible. And our goal is to be able to get out there as wide as possible. So any questions before we go into the small breakout room? Okay. Then with that, I think we can go into a single breakout. So we'll leave Jimmy out here, we'll leave me out here, and we'll leave Jennifer out here. But we'd like to take the rest of the participants and we'll give you a good 10 minutes so you can start searching through them and so you can do some talking with each other as well. And you should be able to join the breakout room now. And why don't we go ahead and pause the recording while they're in a breakout? Welcome back, everybody. The reason we put you into groups was just so you had a little bit more space to be able to look through them and share amongst your peers. And we'd love to hear from some of you. We don't need to have everyone speak out unless you want to. And you should be able to share your screen. If you can share one of the images that spoke to you and why, we'd love to hear that.
Right, I'm gonna go for it. Let's see. Okay, so I am a chemist, and it came to my attention that in all of the slides that I prepared for my classes several years ago, that I didn't use a single picture of a human, apart from a couple of dead scientists, right? And so I've been looking for pictures that applied to sort of what I do. And so this one kind of jumped out at me because I could totally use this very easily. But the other thing that was interesting to me was, sort of you look at the image and you see what you see, but looking at all of the different tags adds so much to kind of, what's in that image. And I was just reflecting again how much I liked that you had the students self-identify and sort of contribute to adding these tags. So yeah, so that one was me.
Thank you. Couple of notes on that. We were intentional. If you notice the STEM photos, we really tried to break some of the tropes of it just being white male students who are often thought of when you think of science. Because we're working with campuses, sometimes the photos were set up in ways that they had because we worked with them ahead of time. But we tried doing that overall in the collection. So one of our first places we went to was students of color, and there was a white male instructor, and we're like, that's a trope we want to get away from. But seen in the entirety, when we went to other campuses, we were able to say that is okay as long as that's not the only pattern. So I appreciate also your note about the different tags and ways of seeing it and how students will self-identify. So maybe what you were thinking or not. One last thing I'll say about the tags is, particularly around some of the LGBT tags, we made some decisions of how many students would be in the shot before we tagged it to not put any individuals at risk. And that was a change from when we initially started. But thank you for starting us off. Who else would like to share?
I can share while others are getting their screens ready to share. One that I really liked is this one, mostly because having gone to a community college and a university in Florida, this was very common to, if it was a nice day, go out and have the classroom be the campus. So this is very reminiscent of that. And I understand, reading the description, this is art, but I kind of saw it in a different way as well, and seeing that the campus is the classroom, and that and really kind of, as you were talking about, like, what is college? To me, a lot of days in college, this is what the classroom looked like. So I really like this because it expanded that definition for me a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. I warned everyone that this is going to be interactive, and I am an educator, so I'm okay calling on people too. But I'd love for you to be able to have someone else come off. Oh, there you are, Jasmine.
Oh, but Joe beat me to it. He dropped his.
Oh, no, we have
I-
two people. Actually, why doesn't
Yeah,
Jasmine
we're
go
ready.
first?
Yeah,
And then Joe can go.
Okay. All right. So I shared. Let's actually see if I can successfully share my screen. There we go. Yeah. So this image just really struck me as I talked about with our little group, is that this is tagged as confused, but I like this because it gets away from that. Really, everybody's really happy. Everybody's having a great time. College is just this really super easy experience. And instead you see someone who is experiencing a different emotion. And maybe they're concerned, maybe they're confused. And as I shared, this really just stuck with me because I spent many study groups with that look on my face. I can think back to chemistry, calculus, those fun things of having this exact look on my face. So I just appreciated the deviation from this experience that everybody is having a wonderful time all the time. So yeah.
Thank you. Joe.
Yeah. the link is the same one I shared in our small group, which is a basic needs tagged photo of a food pantry. And that's just something that keeps coming up in our student success projects. And as a, one of the toughest challenges that students face is in terms of like affecting their experience and their academic outcomes, and just more normalizing that challenge, and also, making it a normal part of the college experience to get to make use of our pantry would be great.
Yeah, thanks for elevating that. We were thoughtful of thinking about student success strategies, and student basic needs being one, of making sure that we could capture some of those images. So as we went to some of the colleges and universities saying, hey, we would like to be able to get this kind of a shot.
Yeah.
But thanks for
If I
elevating.
can add, just we had some time after we shared a photo to just navigate the library. The tags make it really easy to navigate. And I was looking at our university repository, which is really big and has a lot of good images, but is a kind of a chore to get around. It has some tagging, but just not. Yeah, it was like, I think what you have is a kind of a model for how to make that easy to find an image.
Yeah, appreciate that. Actually, that kind of leads to our next thing. I might turn it back to Jimmy. We want to start thinking about how this could be used and thinking about those tags. Jimmy, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, of course. So I have kind of a comment and a question. One, we're thinking about how to elevate a lot of this work, and continue to think about the ways that the students who show up to our campuses, like the ones that we serve in USU, are visually represented in some of our work. And in the next couple of months, we plan to, spoiler alert and teaser, right? Plan to release a personas library that really gives folks who might be working at USU institutions for the first time. We're thinking about our leadership, we're thinking about our faculty and staff, to understand what some of the experiences might look like. So there might be a persona, a short paragraph about a student who is from that local area where the university is located. They might be a parent, they might be a veteran, so on and so forth. So this is something that we hope to use in tandem with that to put a face to that descriptor. I'm curious if you can talk about ways, I know you talked at the beginning in your introduction about ways that you anticipated this being used, whether that's in presentations or marketing or so on and so forth. But ways that you have seen already, or that might have been surprising to you in ways that it's been used since it's been released, that maybe weren't anticipated, or ways that folks might think of how to use this beyond kind of those typical ways that we might think about it in presentations.
Yeah, perhaps less surprising, but more things that just sort of get us excited, because our goal was to make this the go-to source. And it's not about the photo library or Complete College America, but it's if we're really going to change the narrative. And so Jimmy, literally, while we were at break, I got some emails. I'm just sort of sorting through them. I got one literally as we were talking from EdTrust. And as I opened it up, it's like, there's one of our images. And what's even better is that they attribute it, because I've also got some where the attribution is not there. And the reason why the attribution is important is because then it allows other people to be able to go and find them and sort of be able to spread it in those ways. So we've seen them in newsletters, literally the one I just got minutes ago. But we've been seeing them in Inside Higher Ed in their stories. And what I like about it sort of goes to what Joe was talking about, is the images are great in and of themselves, just in terms of the composition of the shot, right? So even those around 850, that was pulling from thousands that you whittle down to. But it's not just the composition, it's the story that it tells. And so I've seen how they're used in different ways. So I've seen some early versions of website where some of the different categories about vision or this or that, and then the image will perfectly encapsulate what's trying to be said in that section, because of the story that it tells. So we've seen some of that as well. And then just some surprises. We were on a webinar the other day, and there were our photos, which is great. It's just sort of neat when worked on something for so long, you know, going from concept to actuality of a couple years, there's just something fun of seeing them in the wild.
Great, thank you. So I'd love to turn it over to our audience here to see if there are any questions in our last 10 or 15 minutes here that Brandon might be able to answer. And feel free if you'd like to type them, I can read them out, or if you'd like to unmute and ask. We're all here together, so feel free to join the conversation.
I'm actually going to turn it back to them, Jimmy, because I come from education. So I would love to know, what's a way that you can think about how you would use these? We heard that in that someone who shared, Sushila did about chemistry, instead of showing no people or dead people, or people who've since passed. You're not showing dead people, but knowing that you also have stock imagery, but sometimes you're looking for a very specific shot. What are ways that you think about either the kind of image you might be searching for, or the format or use case of how you might use it? Like what kind of media? I'd love to hear some just initial thoughts.
I've used personas in the past, and I feel like this for this purpose, but I feel like these photos would really be good as well, which is you know, in faculty development, new teacher training, teaching assistants, to sort of say, like, you've put together a lesson plan, or you've thought about a first day set of activities. How might a student like this, and I'll use a persona oftentimes, interact with that? Are you really doing something that is going to speak to everybody? You know, so I could see putting up a couple of these photos and having people sort of flesh out the story that they see in that. And how might a veteran, an adult learner who's a veteran, or a student with dependents or other things, be interacting with the kinds of activities and assignments you're giving them? Are they relevant? Do they speak to a multitude of stories? So I would love to use these in those kinds of capacities, along with personas, to maybe challenge some of the default assumptions that we have when we're in a classroom, right? Because you have to kind of go to an aggregate set of assumptions. And I like the way that these challenge those assumptions.
To that point, real quick on the personas or others, with that Creative Commons license, you are free to share and adapt, which means you can remix, transform, and build upon the material. So you might say, I love that image of that veteran, but I'd like to do, you know, the 3 shots together or change the background for your purposes. Free to use, proper attribution, you can do that. Any other thoughts on how you might think about using it, or media in which you might utilize these?
I don't do this work so much anymore, but I used to sort of edit and arrange our, it was like the Provost Office weekly newsletter. And so that was a constant, like, you know, within hours occasionally of after it was completed, and we had to find some kind of a thematic, or, you know, some sort of photo related to what we were doing. So that's, you know, the exact kind of thing I think this would be great for, where it was like you can find something quickly, it'll fit the story, and yeah.
To that point, it'd be great to share with your comms departments.
Yep,
at
exactly.
universities.
I have a lot of PowerPoint presentations and areas on websites where, like, there's space for a photo and you don't want all of your slides to, like, just be text. You need to have some photos in there for, you know, some visual interest, but, like, the photo is just there. It's not conveying anything necessarily specific or related to the subject matter. I've just been using the same stock photos year after year after year, because I'm not going to go and look for a new stock photo, because I know it's just going to be the same thing. It's just going to be a different smiling student in the classroom, but, like, it's not going to accomplish anything that the old stock photo didn't. And so I can see here, if I am doing running a meeting where we are talking about you know, inclusive campus environments and promoting campus resources, being able to say, okay, I can easily pull one of these food pantry photos, right? Or if I want something of students in a classroom or students in a library, knowing that I have a very broad spectrum to pull from, as opposed to just searching library on stock photos, and all I'm getting is like Trinity Library in Dublin, which like lovely, but that's not really the angle I'm going for. So yeah, I think using them not just as, oh, I should put a photo here because it's going to make my presentations more interesting, but oh, I can put a photo here because it's going to further drive home the point that I'm trying to make or help people better visualize why it is that, you know, we should be doing whatever it is we're doing, if that makes sense.
Love it. Well, great. Well, happy to stick around if there's any other questions or comments. But really the point of today was to be able to share this resource. We hope that you individually can use it. We hope that your universities can use it. We also hope that you can share it with your colleagues and your larger networks, whether those be at your universities or in some of the professional networks that you belong to. I'll reiterate, we had two goals with this, which was to create this photo library. But we also have a deeper goal, which is we want to change the narrative and really take back the narrative around higher education. And some of that is making sure that the way that people are thinking about and the way that people are seeing higher education really reflects students' lived realities. So with that, happy to turn it back to Jamie or Jennifer if you have any closing comments.
Yes, I just want to make sure to thank you so much for this presentation and really even beyond just the presentation, allowing us to discuss and really engage with the content. So I'm gonna go ahead and start here a little virtual what's that called? Round of applause. So you can all feel free to thank Brandon in that way as well. So thank you so much again for being here. I'm really happy too that we were able to go beyond just that these are photos, but that this is really about transforming the work that we do. So thank you so much. In addition, for folks that are here, if you are interested in following along in our webinar series, the best way to do that are through our social media accounts, where you may see some of these photos already on our blog series and posts that we've put up. But if you're interested, we have a couple more webinars coming up through the remainder of the year. So feel free to stay tuned there. But beyond that, I'll also stick around for a couple of minutes if anyone has any additional questions. But once again, thank you so much, Brandon, and we look forward to working with CCA more in the future.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks all.